Fela Kuti, also known as Fela Anikulapo Kuti or simply Fela, was a Nigerian multi-instrumentalist, musician, composer, pioneer of the Afrobeat music genre, human rights activist, and political maverick. Biography, early life and career. Fela was born Olufela Olusegun Oludotun Ransome-Kuti on October 15, 1938 in Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria, into an upper-middle-class family. His mother, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, was a feminist activist in the anti-colonial movement. His father, Reverend Israel Oludotun Ransome-Kuti, a Protestant minister and school principal, was the first president of the Nigeria Union of Teachers. His brothers, Beko Ransome-Kuti and Olukwa Ransome-Kuti, both medical doctors, are well known in Nigeria. Fela was a first cousin to the Nigerian writer and Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, the first African to win a Nobel Prize for Literature. Fela was sent to London in 1958 to study medicine but decided to study music instead at the Trinity College of Music. While there, he formed the band Kula Lubitos, playing a fusion of jazz and high life. In 1960, Fela married his first wife, Remilikun Taylor, with whom he would have 3 children. In 1963, Fela moved back to Nigeria, reformed Kula Lubitos and trained as a radio producer for the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation. He played for some time with Victor Ilaria and his All-Stars. In 1967, he went to Ghana to think up a new musical direction. That was when Kuti first called his music Afrobeat. In 1969, Fela took the band to the United States where they spent 10 months in Los Angeles. While there, Fela discovered the Black Power movement through Sandra Smith, a partisan of the Black Panther Party. The experience would heavily influence his music and political views. He renamed the band Nigeria 70. Soon afterwards, the Immigration and Naturalization Service was tipped off by a promoter that Fela and his band were in the U.S. without work permits. The band immediately performed a quick recording session in Los Angeles that would later be released as the 69 Los Angeles Sessions. 1970s. After Fela and his band returned to Nigeria, the group was renamed the Africa 70, as lyrical themes changed from love to social issues. He then formed the Kalakuta Republic, a commune, a recording studio, and a home for the many people connected to the band that he later declared independent from the Nigerian state. Fela set up a nightclub in the Empire Hotel, first named the Afro Spot and then the Africa Shrine, where he both performed regularly and officiated at personalized Yoruba traditional ceremonies in honor of his nation's ancestral faith. He also changed his middle name to Anikulapo, stating that his original middle name of Ransome was a slave name. Fela's music was popular among the Nigerian public and Africans in general. In fact, he made the decision to sing in Pidgin English so that his music could be enjoyed by individuals all over Africa, where the local languages spoken are very diverse and numerous. As popular as Fela's music had become in Nigeria and elsewhere, it was also very unpopular with the ruling government, and raids on the Kalakuta Republic were frequent. During 1972, Ginger Baker recorded Stratovarius with Fela appearing alongside Bobby Gass. Around this time, Kuti became even more involved in the Yoruba religion. In 1977, Fela and the Africa 70 released the album Zombie, a scathing attack on Nigerian soldiers using the zombie metaphor to describe the methods of the Nigerian military. The album was a smash hit and infuriated the government, setting off a vicious attack against the Kalakuta Republic, during which 1,000 soldiers attacked the commune. Fela was severely beaten, and his elderly mother was thrown from a window, causing fatal injuries. The Kalakuta Republic was burned, and Fela's studio, instruments, and master tapes were destroyed. Fela claimed that he would have been killed had it not been for the intervention of a commanding officer as he was being beaten. Fela's response to the attack was to deliver his mother's coffin to the Dodan barracks in Lagos, General Olusegun Obasanjo's residence, and to write 2 songs, Coffin for Head of State, and Unknown Soldier, referencing the official inquiry that claimed the commune had been destroyed by an unknown soldier. Fela and his band then took residence in Crossroads Hotel as the shrine had been destroyed along with his commune. In 1978, Fela married 27 women, many of whom were his dancers, composers, and singers to mark the anniversary of the attack on the Calcutta Republic. Later, he was to adopt a rotation system of keeping only 12 simultaneous wives. The year was also marked by two notorious concerts, the first in Accra in which riots broke out during the song Zombie, which led to Fela being banned from entering Ghana. The second was at the Berlin Jazz Festival, after which most of Fela's musicians deserted him, due to rumors that Fela was planning to use the entire proceeds to fund his presidential campaign. Despite the massive setbacks, Fela was determined to come back. He formed his own political party, which he called Movement of the People. In 1979, he put himself forward for president in Nigeria's first elections for more than a decade, but his candidature was refused. At this time, Fela created a new band called Egypt 80 and continued to record albums and tour the country. He further infuriated the political establishment by dropping the names of ITT Corporation Vice President Mashood Abiola and then General Olusegun Obasanjo at the end of a hot-selling 25-minute political screed titled ITT 1980s and Beyond. In 1984, Muhammad Buhari's government, of which Kuti was a vocal opponent, jailed him on a charge of currency smuggling, which Amnesty International and others denounced as politically motivated. Amnesty designated him a prisoner of conscience, and his case was also taken up by other human rights groups. After 20 months, he was released from prison by General Ibrahim Babangida. On his release he divorced his 12 remaining wives, saying that marriage brings jealousy and selfishness. Once again, Fela continued to release albums with Egypt 80, made a number of successful tours of the United States and Europe, and also continued to be politically active. In 1986, Fela performed in Giant Stadium in New Jersey as part of the Amnesty International Conspiracy of Hope concert, sharing the bill with Bono, Carlos Santana, and the Neville Brothers. In 1989, Fela and Egypt 80 released the anti-apartheid Beasts of No Nation album that depicts on its cover US President Ronald Reagan, UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and South African Prime Minister Peter Willem Botha. His album output slowed in the 1990s, and eventually he stopped releasing albums altogether. In 1993, he and 4 members of the Africa 70 organization were arrested for murder. The battle against military corruption in Nigeria was taking its toll, especially during the rise of dictator Sani Abacha. Rumors were also spreading that he was suffering from an illness for which he was refusing treatment. Death. On August 3, 1997, Olufela Ransome-Kuti, already a prominent AIDS activist and former Minister of Health, stunned the nation by announcing his younger brother's death a day earlier from Kaposi's sarcoma, which was brought on by AIDS. More than 1 million people attended Fela's funeral at the site of the old shrine compound. A new Africa shrine has opened since Fela's death in a different section of Lagos under the supervision of his son Femi Kuti. Music. The musical style of Fela is called Afrobeat, a style he largely created, which is a complex fusion of jazz, funk, Ghanaian Nigerian highlife, psychedelic rock, and traditional West African chants and rhythms. Afrobeat also borrows heavily from the native Tinka Pan-African style percussion that Kuti acquired while studying in Ghana with Hugh Masekela, under the Uncanny Heads Soundz. The importance of the input of Tony Allen in the creation of Afrobeat cannot be overstated. Fela once famously stated that without Tony Allen, there would be no Afrobeat. Afrobeat is characterized by a fairly large band with many instruments, vocals, and a musical structure featuring jazzy, funky horn sections. A riff-based endless groove is used, in which a bass rhythm of drums, shekir, muted West African-style guitar, and melodic bass guitar riffs are repeated throughout the song. Commonly, interlocking melodic riffs and rhythms are introduced one by one, building the groove bit by bit and layer by layer. The horn section then becomes prominent, introducing other riffs and main melodic themes. Fela's band was notable for featuring 2 baritone saxophones, whereas most groups were using only one of this instrument. This is a common technique in African and African-influenced musical styles, and can be seen in funk and hip-hop. Fela's bands at times even performed with two bassists at the same time, both playing interlocking melodies and rhythms. There were always two or more guitarists. The electric West African-style guitar in Afrobeat bands are paramount, but are used to give basic structure, playing a repeating chord or melodic statement, riff, or groove. Some elements often present in Fela's music are the call and response within the chorus and figurative but simple lyrics. Fela's songs were also very long, at least 10-15 minutes in length, and many reaching the 20 or even 30 minutes, while some unreleased tracks would last up to 45 minutes when performed live. This was one of many reasons that his music never reached a substantial degree of popularity outside Africa. His LP records frequently had one 30-minute track per side. Typically there is an instrumental introduction jam part of the song, perhaps 10-15 minutes long, before Fela starts singing the main part of the song, featuring his lyrics and singing, in which the song continues for another 10-15 minutes. Therefore on some recordings one may see his songs divided into two parts, part 1 followed by the rest, part 2. His songs were mostly sung in Nigerian Pidgin English, although he also performed a few songs in the Yoruba language. Fela's main instruments were the saxophone and the keyboards, but he also played the trumpet, electric guitar, and took the occasional drum solo. Fela refused to perform songs again after he had already recorded them, which also hindered his popularity outside Africa. Fela was known for his showmanship, and his concerts were often quite outlandish and wild. He referred to his stage act as the underground spiritual game. Fela attempted making a movie but lost all the materials to the fire that was set to his house by the military government in power. Kuti thought that art, and thus his own music, should have political meaning. Political views. Kuti thought the most important way for Africans to fight European cultural imperialism was to support traditional African religions and lifestyles. The American Black Power movement also influenced Fela's political views. He was a supporter of Pan-Africanism and socialism, and called for a united, democratic African republic. He was a candid supporter of human rights, and many of his songs are direct attacks against dictatorships, specifically the militaristic governments of Nigeria in the 1970s and 1980s. He was also a social commentator, and he criticized his fellow Africans for betraying traditional African culture. The African culture he believed in also included having many wives, and the Kalakuta Republic was formed in part as a polygamist colony. He defended his stance on polygyny with the words, "A man goes for many women in the first place." Like in Europe, when a man is married, when the wife is sleeping, he goes out and f's around. He should bring the women in the house, man, to live with him, and stop running around the streets. His views towards women are characterized by some as misogynist, with songs like Mattress typically cited as evidence. In a more complex example, he mocks the aspiration of African women to European standards of ladyhood while extolling the values of the market woman in his song Lady. In the 1970s, Kuti began buying advertising space in daily and weekly newspapers such as the Daily Times and The Punch in order to run outspoken political columns, bypassing editorial censorship in Nigeria's predominantly state-controlled media. Published throughout the 1970s and early 1980s under the title Chief Priest Say, these columns were essentially extensions of Kuti's famous Yabi sessions, a Euro-consciousness-raising word-sound rituals, with himself as chief priest, conducted at his Lagos nightclub. Organized around a militantly Afrocentric rendering of history and the essence of black beauty, Chief Priest Say focused on the role of cultural hegemony in the continuing subjugation of Africans. Kuti addressed a number of topics, from explosive denunciations of the Nigerian government's criminal behavior, Islam and Christianity's exploitative nature, and evil multinational corporations, to deconstructions of Western medicine, black Muslims, sex, pollution, and poverty. Chief Priest Say was cancelled, first by Daily Times then by Punch, ostensibly due to non-payment, but many commentators have speculated that the paper's respective editors were placed under increasingly violent pressure to stop publication. The Fela Revival. In recent years there has been a revitalization of Fela's influence on music and popular culture, culminating in another re-release of his catalog controlled by Universal Music, Broadway and off-Broadway biographically based shows, and new bands, such as Anti-Ballers, who carry the Afrobeat banner to a new generation of listeners. In 1999, Universal Music France, under the aegis of Francis Kotekian, remastered the 45 albums that it controlled and released them on 26 compact discs. These titles were licensed to other territories of the world with the exception of Nigeria and Japan, where Fela's music was controlled by other companies. In 2005, Universal Music USA licensed all of its world music titles to the UK-based label RAS Records, which repackaged the same 26 CDs for distribution in the USA and the UK. In 2009, Universal created a new deal for the USA with Knitting Factory Records and for Europe with PIAS, which included the release of the Fela Broadway cast album. In 2013, FKO Limited, the entity that owned the rights of all of Fela's compositions, was acquired by BMG Rights Management. Thomas McCarthy's 2008 film The Visitor depicted a disconnected professor who wanted to play the gem. He learns from a young Syrian who tells the professor he will never truly understand African music unless he listens to Fela. The film features clips of Fela's Open and Close, and Genui Temi. In 2008, an off-Broadway production of Fela Kuti's life entitled Fela, inspired by Carlos Moore's 1982 book Fela, This Bitch of a Life, began with a collaborative workshop between the Afrobeat band Anti-Ballers and Tony Award winner Bill T. Jones. The show was a massive success, selling out shows during its run, and garnering much critical acclaim. On November 22, 2009, Fela began a run on Broadway at the Eugene O'Neill Theatre. Jim Lewis helped co-write the play, and obtain producer backing from Jay-Z and Will Smith, among others. On May 4, 2010, Fela was nominated for 11 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, Best Book of a Musical, Best Direction of a Musical for Bill T. Jones, Best Leading Actor in a Musical for Zion Gao-Jaw, and Best Featured Actress in a Musical for Lilias White. On June 11, 2012, it was announced that Fela would return to Broadway for 32 performances. On August 18, 2009, award-winning DJ J. released a free mixtape to the general public via his website that was a collaboration with Somali-born hip-hop artist K'naan paying tribute to Fela, Bob Marley and Bob Dylan, entitled The Messengers. In October 2009, Knitting Factory Records began the process of re-releasing the 45 titles that Universal Music controls, starting with yet another re-release of the compilation The Best of the Black President in the USA. The rest were expected to be released in 2010. The full-length documentary film Finding Fela, directed by Alex Gibney, received its premiere at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. In addition, a movie by Focus Features, directed by Steve McQueen and written by Bai Bandel about the life of Fela Kuti was rumored to be in production 2010, with Chiwetel Ejiofor in the lead role, but has not eventuated. Discography: Fela's London Scene, Live. Shakira, Gentleman, Confusion, Expensive Shit, He Misrode, Zombie, Stalemate, No Agreement, Sorrow Tears and Blood, Shuffering and Schmealing, Black President, Original Softhead, Unknown Soldier, Army Arrangement, Beasts of No Nation, The Best of Fela Kuti, Filmography, Finding Fela, 2014 Alex Gibney and Jack Gulick Jigsaw Productions, Fela in Concert, 1981, Music is the Weapon, 1982, Star Copyright Fainchal Gadjif and Jean-Jacques Flory, Fela Live. Fela Anikulapo Kuti and the Egypt 80 Band, 1984, recorded live at Glastonbury, England, Fela Kuti, Teacher Don't Teach Me Nonsense and Berliner Jazztage 78, 1984, Femi Kuti live at the Shrine, 2005, recorded live in Lagos, Nigeria. Notes. Further reading, Moore, Carlos. Fela, This Bitch of a Life. Allison and Busby. UK and New Edition Chicago Review Press, 2009. Veal, Michael E. Fela, The Life of an African Musical Icon. Temple University Press. USA, Idaho, Mabanuri Kod. Fela, Le Combattant. Le Castre Astral. France, Oloran Yomi, Solar. Afrobeat, Fela and the Imagined Continent. Africa World Press. USA, Schoonmaker, Trevor. Fela, From West Africa to West Broadway. Palgrave Macmillan. USA, Schoonmaker, Trevor. Black President, The Art and Legacy of Fela Anikulapo Kuti. New Museum of Contemporary Art, New York. ISBN A0-915557-87-8. Olaniyan, Tijamola. Arrest the Music. Fela and His Rebel Art and Politics. Indiana University Press. USA, Jabora, Majimit the Iqua Prison Narratives, The Spiritualism and Political Philosophy of Fela Kuti. Lulu.com. ISBN A978-1-4452-2626-2. Wilmer, Val, Fela Kuti in London, In the Wire, No. 331. External links, official website, Fela Kuti at Find a Grave, Fela Kuti discography at Discogs, He Was in a Godlike State. A Guardian feature by Alex Hornaford, July 25, 2007. Fela Kuti article from the new official Ginger Baker Archive and Drummers Forum launched by the Baker family September 2010. Fela Kuti biography at World Music Central, includes biography, discography and bibliography.